Hello, welcome to my living room. My name is Lana Labonte, and if this is the first time you're catching me, I am here to uplift, support, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version of you you came here and are meant to be. Because this is what life is about, right? All right, I think we're gonna fix some lighting in here because apparently it's not bright enough. That's just how it works. All right, surprise. I actually was contemplating whether or not I wanted to go live. And then I'm like, but I do, but I don't. I don't know. New moon energy's coming up tomorrow too. Are you feeling it? There's a lot on everyone's plates. And whether you know astrology or not, you just know, you feel something's off, right? Or maybe it's on. Maybe you're on. Maybe you're more on than you're off. But usually it takes checking in, tuning in, tapping in to the body to recognize whether you're on or you're off. It's not like we have switches, or do we? Because like I came from an IT background, and when I think of the body and I think of us humans, which came first, the computer or the person? Because the systems are very similar. And maybe, just maybe, they're very much alike because they work in harmony, just like the earth is also something that we work in, nature. And really, we learn so much from nature, and nature nurtures. Look at how far we've supposedly come, and what we don't know even before that. I have a suspicion myself, personally, that maybe AI has always been around, and what has trickled out is only what they want you to think exists. You know, movies are the power of suggestion, planting seeds within your mind. So when you watch movies, it's very possible you think it's predicting the future, but in reality, it's predictively programming your mind. Instead of it being something that tells the future, it's really teaching you to manifest it for them. That's just one way to think about it. So it is very possible, and most likely, that AI has always been around and is not really as big of a threat that they'd like us to believe. Because if it is a threat, then of course, wouldn't you like to consider that maybe they would come up with a solution? More regulation, more control measures. Because that's how the Hegelian dialect works. Create the problem and present the resolution, the resolution, meaning you didn't need a solution to begin with. They're just representing it to you. Representing, representing. The languaging, I'm telling you. And it's always a question of how present are you, and paying attention to the languaging and this casting of spells. Because the words that we hear get implanted in us to the point of habitual routine. We never questioned until one day we went, I hadn't considered it from that perspective. Or maybe someone says something a little different. Because it's the inner reflection that really gives us the most information. That no matter how much life has taught you, you have an inner knowing, an into me I see, a connection to your gnosis, how wise or not that you are. Because wisdom is within us. It's really the unveiling of it, the lifting of the veil, the removing of the layers to reveal the wisdom that actually resides within you. We don't go seeking. We don't need to seek, technically, outside of ourselves. It will reflect back to us what's within and where we're at. But it's a choice. Like, we're getting to choose Just like the other day when I was saying, like those choose your own adventures, you get to choose if you're going to go out in the outside world and adventure, or you're going to go inside your world and adventure. The creativity really comes from within, but you may be inspired from the out. It's all interplay. And there is no right or wrong. It's the choosing. That is your superpower. You get to decide, how am I going to play with the world today? How would I like to have an experience? What does my heart and soul desire? We are really, and I look at myself, kind of oblivious to the fact that we have created this reality, conscious or unconscious, programmed or not. There's an underlying program to everything. And we take on our environment. So when we came into the world, we were birthed, we were born. Even before we came out of the womb, we were receiving signals, information, data, 5 senses. And then when we came out, we got more. Overload, system overload, nervous system, circuitry being wired. Again, I'm saying this in a way that try to get you to understand that no different than computers, we take in information. And the way that we process is based on the learning, the operating system, the environment that we were in and exposed to. Our generational hand-me-downs, the legacies in our families, that at a certain point, you may or may not wake up to the patterns that you recreate. And it's so funny when you think about the different languages and words that have been used, hi Pamela, in all of our lives, like recreation centers, recreation. You know, like you can sit and break down words left and right and be like totally awestruck. And then getting the understanding with the etymology and the parallels of other books and other information that maybe you've already come across and you just didn't see it that way. Because if you have a certain operating system, you may need an upgrade. Because maybe the data, the information doesn't work with the old operating system, right? So even just like a computer when it needs to be updated because things aren't meshing well with the new information, it needs to get an upgrade. See, I can speak like this because I'm coming from an old IT background. So I can talk bits and bytes and ones and zeros and trues and false all day long. But I can also talk about it in parallel with the body because it's the same situation. And, it's, you know, some people take information in like compare it to sports. So, you know, a lot of times giving analogies or giving metaphors or, you know, just comparisons, it's easier for people to relate to the information if you prepare it in a way that is relatable to them, right? So we're taking in all this information and, you know, it's just like anything. You may not have noticed it the first time, may not have noticed it the second time, but then all of a sudden things are starting to look a little different the third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. Just like, why do I keep repeating the same pattern? Because it's part of your operating system and the program hasn't been updated. You hadn't yet understood the lesson, so the program will continue to run until you get a what if command and then this answer. Just like when you, because this is how programming works, is you put together a flow chart. The program starts out saying, if this condition is met, go in this direction. But if it isn't met, it go in that direction. If it isn't, but it isn't quite, it could go in another direction. Programs are very simple. Much, much simpler than we realize, especially the ones within ourselves. So when we go through the continuous lesson, we meet the requirements, and then all of a sudden it's go in the other direction. Well, there's a whole other series of executions that happen. Isn't that a funny word too? Because programs require execution. It's, again, play with the words, get funny. See the silliness and the fun and the interplay of life, because literally everything is on the stage, at play. We are engaging in this interplay, like, you know, when you encounter somebody and you're like, huh, what do you think? I mean, I'm just going to say this. Quite often, we don't even consciously recognize that we're at some point listening, observing, checking to see, in comparison to other people we've encountered in our lives. Who does this person remind me of? Whether they do or don't, it's most of the times it's unconscious. But the minute they strike a program condition, you are already matching them to another person. So we meet these people. We're going, oh, you met these conditions. I'm immediately thinking of this person. It goes in that direction. So in some way, you are already projecting onto them based on your past experiences. We do this, conscious or unconscious. And I'm just doing this from a relatable way to consider. The next time you encounter somebody, notice, are you already in the, who does this person remind me of? Did they meet a condition that made you think of a certain person? Oh, they remind me of this person. And then you already start conscious or unconscious. Most of the times it's so like habitual. You're already in the way that your mind goes. You've already put them in a box because they met these conditions, or they ascribe to a certain label, or whatever you put into a box. And that's the biggest travesty of all relationships. Intimate, interpersonal, work-related, unrelated. When we engage with people, when we meet people, we usually don't even give them a chance. We don't even realize we're not doing that, because we have so many conditions that we're comparing them to, that we lose the uniqueness in the interchange, the experience with that other person. We're already looking for them to meet these conditions, but we don't even know we're looking to do that because it's so habitual. The program's already been running for so long that unless somebody throws a cog in the wheel, you might not catch yourself. This is why mindfulness practice is so important, because when you become more mindful and the more you slow down and witness the way that your mind operates, you will catch yourself at a certain point. Like, wow, I am actually seeing this person as somebody that they're not. I put them in a box. How would I feel if I knew that about somebody doing that to me? And I say that because that's the kind of way my mind thinks, is and calculates, and I recognize these things. Did this happen recently? No. Maybe. So I went to Whole Foods today. This will be my story for the day. This is kind of like really interesting because, you know, I really enjoy meeting new people, whether it's in a line at a grocery store or anywhere. I like people. I'm a people watcher. I also like to be introverted too, but I am also very social, and I've been called a social butterfly before. Some people see that as a good or a bad thing. I don't know. I enjoy experience. So this guy behind me and the woman in front of me, she clearly bought some healthy things, and I'm over here with the pile of chocolates. I was stocking up on chocolate today. I had these honey mamas that are so good, and then I bought some mint chocolate because I love mint chocolate, and I also got some I need to get one of his Watcher shirts. You're right. I was thinking about the ginger. It's so hard to find ginger chunks, you know, in the chocolate. That's one of my other favorites, and they stopped selling them from a certain brand that I used to love. Oh well. So this man's looking at our stuff, and he starts talking about, oh, wow, how can he started like creating a story and projecting. And I could I could tell you, I could run down everything that I was witnessing and experiencing. And I never once put him in the box of he reminds me of someone. But it was really interesting because when I listen to a person talk, I also hear their psychology. I also hear them comparing themselves, because that's essentially what you're doing. When you start making comments, we tell on ourselves, by the way, always. And we have blind spots, so we won't always see when we're doing it, but others will see it. So those blind spots are seen by others even when you're not seeing them, which is why it's so important. Like if you've never had a coach or a mentor or somebody who could hold you accountable, you can't always see your own shit, right? So this man, he's just saying, oh yeah, all that chocolate, oh my gosh, I could never. That's crazy. And I looked back at him like, no, I feel good about it. I said, it's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm fine. And then he looks at me and the other woman who's also equally, slender and fit, would be the appearance that because we're skinny or slim that we're healthy does not mean a person's healthy, by the way. And he proceeds to say, well, you're both slender, you don't have to worry about anything, blah, blah, blah. He's going into the story and I'm hearing him. And when I'm also hearing him compare himself and what his belief system is around chocolate being bad for you, like this is what people don't realize they're saying. I can't eat that because my belief is it'll make me fat, that it's not healthy for me. When you really listen to what people are saying, you're like, oh, wow. And I turned around and I started to say, no, that's just a belief. I said, that people go to war over beliefs, right? And I was trying to be lighthearted about it. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with any of this. It's okay. It's your belief around it that changes things. I said, if you believe it, that's what creates your reality. And the woman in front of me, she was listening and she was like, I believe, we were both like, you do create your reality with your belief system, even if you don't want to admit it. But he kept saying, oh, I couldn't ever, and this, and he was just, what I was really hearing in the way he was speaking was him saying, because we're slim, that he had to watch his weight, assuming that we had it easier. Like he was actually disempowering himself every time he was saying something in a way that was a belief. Every little thing was a belief about what he had to do, whether he enjoyed it or not. Like that was the part that really caught me. And I really wish I could have had a moment to really like kind of make him feel like it, we overthink things. And so therefore we actually ruin the experience of it. Because personally, and I've said for years, back when I did my kitchen videos and my dancing and when I was doing the Ridiculously Authentic, if you are going to cheat, change your mindset and enjoy what you eat. Because if you are beating yourself up about what you're about to consume, you're changing the vibration of that food. You're ruining that experience in that moment. You are infusing that food with a negative mood. You are infusing it with non-nourishing food, energy. You need to infuse that food with like joy and substance and like let it nourish you because you want to enjoy it. But if you are negative self-talking the whole time, you ruin the experience completely. Like at that point, you've already sabotaged the food, even though you're claiming you're in a mood to want to enjoy it, but I shouldn't. Don't shit on yourself. Enjoy it. So many belief systems in this world, in this day and age, where people are consumed literally by their beliefs, their BS. Consumed to the point where they don't even know how to consume and like really experience, like just be. Stop labeling it. And like I said, every time you label something, you limit it. When you limit that thing, that whatever, you have now turned what could be infinite into finite. You reduce its efficacy. You reduce the beauty, the joy that is in everything. It's up to you to choose to witness and see it and experience it. So again, everything we're doing is choosing. We're choosing to be in a good mood. We're choosing to be in a bad mood. Maybe something triggers us, but you still have the choice to let it take you down or to rise you up. So listening to him, and there was a certain point he just assumed, because he started getting into, well, at my age, and you probably don't have to worry about it at your age. And I'm like, how old do you think I am? Because I always expect this. I know, there I go with my own word spell. I don't feel my age. I feel damn good for going to be 49 this summer. And I said, well, let's just say this. I would have had over 30 years if I were still in the military. And he was like, well, then you're around 50. And I said, yeah. I said, I'll be 50 next year. I said, but, and he's like, well, I would have thought like 38, maybe 40. I said, see, there you go. So you can't even assume. But he was talking himself down by projecting out all these stories. And I was just, my heart was a little sad for him, because I'm like, dude, give yourself a break. You know what I mean? Like you're looking at everybody else's cart and comparing yourself and what you feel limited by, and it shows, and I'm hearing it. And at a certain point he said, well, how old do you think I am? I was like, I have no clue. I said, I don't try to assume, and I don't, I don't really like to guess people's ages, because I don't, I've seen people who looked older and looked younger, And he said he was 63. And I said, well, there you go. You look good for your age. His skin was nice. He was bald, but he looked healthy as far as my eyes could see. So again, and Pamela, you too, you're gorgeous. But isn't it wild to listen to somebody and be like, wow, what a, my heart goes out to you. A lot of compassion for what I'm hearing. And so the woman in front of me, she just looked over at me, and we just smiled, and we were like, yeah, your thoughts create your reality, But I had said something about that, and he said, oh, like, what was it? Napoleon Hill. I said, like Joe Dispenza, like, Bruce Lipton, like you are capable. And so anyway, so yeah, that kind of struck me today. Like, that's sad, but at the same time, it was beautiful, because I see poetry in life. I see art in motion. That interplay, maybe in some way, maybe it lifted him up, even if I wasn't able to show him or not. You know what I mean? Like, reflect back. Hopefully I reflected back to him ways to maybe reconsider the thoughts. We do this. We disempower ourselves sometimes with our own thoughts and don't even realize we're doing it. And again, we don't see our blind spots. Only others can see them. So maybe we're having a day where we're just comparing ourselves to somebody, and we're like, wow, I wish I could do that. Well, you can. It's not that you can't. It's just you have a limited mindset. You have a lot of BS going on. So that was interesting. And I guess sharing that, again, like, we don't know what's going on in someone else's life, but if you're really tuned into yourself, you can almost pick it out in others, but not to fully assume you know it all. And that is never the goal. The goal is to have compassion for everyone we meet, because we don't know what internal struggles they're dealing with, And sometimes people appear to have struggles and they don't, and they're playing a game. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're playing off our emotions. And tap into your inner guidance system and see if you pick up onto that too. Because I've been around people that I'm like, something doesn't jive here. And you listen and you hear the contradictions come out of their mouth. You're like, huh, really? Okay. Gotta go. Again, life is a game. It is a play, and you get to choose your role and how you show up. Being the observer teaches us so much about ourselves too. Because I walked away thinking, I hope I came across as lighthearted as I was feeling. Because life is meant to be playful and fun, right? That's where I was at the moment. So, all right. So let's see what else happened today. I got acupuncture. I got battlefield, or this is actually auricular acupuncture, where you get it in your ears, because the ear is also a map of the body too. I have it again on Monday. I love, love, love. Acupuncture is one of my favorite things on top of massage, which I should get myself. I am so bad. I love massages, but man, when it comes to scheduling them, that's a whole nother conversation. Although I'm going to a neuromuscular therapist once a week, and that is kind of a semi-massage, but not really. So yeah, that was my morning. This is actually a little painful, but it really, when it hits the points and you move your body, it like really dissipates and disperses. Like you start to feel the difference in your body, because it's very much just like the foot. You know, you can get reflexology on your feet. The first time I had this, I think it was when I was up in Maryland. My old Korean acupuncturist, she was amazing. I was sharing that with the girlfriend today, how when her and her husband had a business, or I'm sure they still have it. I'd like to think they still have it. They're up in Bethesda, Maryland, and back in Korea, they have a farm where they grow the ginger and all of the herbs that were in her shop. And the cool thing, this woman, she's beautiful. And her son is a gorgeous actor, by the way, too. She showed me a picture once, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would have never known that was her son. But he's up there, too. He's in a lot of big movies. So anyway, the story that I want to share is this woman, absolutely beautiful, most amazing soul. I used to go to her regularly, and it was long after I'd been stationed in Korea. And one time I went back, and I hadn't been back for a while, but she had had a fall and had paralyzed her. And this broke my heart, because I'm like, this woman was just like prim, beautiful, very fit, very, very stoic for a woman, and very loving too. She always told me, honor your mother. And I thought that was a beautiful way to, and I did. I loved my mom. So I actually brought my mom there a couple times. So she says, she tells me the story that she had fallen, and she actually brought herself back to life, in the sense of like, she went through a lot of therapy. And then when I saw her at this time, because there was that big gap of time I didn't see her, I was working in Italy. She actually was limping because her walking wasn't fully returned. Like she didn't have her natural stride. And but what an amazingly strong woman. I mean, seriously, older than me, significantly older than me, and even maybe she was closer to my mom's age, I would guess. If anything, I would say she's probably in her late 60s to 70s now. And just my heart, that woman, just so amazing. And when people are true healers, they can heal themselves. There's never a doubt in your mind. But to see someone go through a physical healing like that, like I never got that bad. I've had to nurse myself back as well. So I say this at the same time, knowing full well what I've actually recovered from over the years at various stages in my life. Like the appendectomy, having my appendix removed, was excruciating and really knocked the wind out of me. That was the big knock me down. But before that, it was the neck injury. And the neck injury was also one of the reasons I didn't run for a long time. In fact, I really don't have a desire to go back to long distance running, although it was a huge meditation for me in motion. Because I ran my Paris marathon, I ran Florence. Florence was my first, no, wait. Paris was my first because Paris is my favorite, and Florence was my second because it was my two favorite cities in Europe. And that was in 2004. April of 2004, I ran Paris, and November of 2004, I ran Florence. And it's just so crazy that, you know, we don't realize that whatever we set our mind, well, I say we, a lot of people don't realize how powerful they are until you do something that you didn't think you could do. But that takes discipline, and that takes determination consistently. And the difference between someone who gets up, fails and fails and fails, but eventually does it, and someone who doesn't even try is huge. So going back to, again, the limiting mindset, the BS, the belief systems that disempower us and actually hold us back, that relationship to ourself, that when we're telling a story, I could never do that. I can't even imagine. Like, you're hearing them compare themselves all the time, but yet never trying. And at what point do they feel or believe or take on that belief that they could never or they would never? So I go back to the programs when we're children and what we're exposed to, the pictures of what looks old and aging. Can I tell you that when I was a kid, I never subscribed to what old looked like. I don't even know how to explain that. I just know in my mind, even now thinking about it, even having seen my grandparents become old, I'm like, okay. But then, to visualize yourself get there. But what I can say is varicose veins. You see all that? See this? I've had varicose veins since I was probably 11 or 12. And of course that is circulation issues, I'm sure, I know that. And I've had a lot of leg injuries with my bike riding and banging them up. But that was even later on, even more so. But with my grandmother, my dad's mom, she had varicose veins. And I loved her so much. Something in my mind and my belief system loved her enough to take on varicose veins at a very young age. That sounds really weird, but I know that's what I did. Bruce Lipton, Biology of Belief. Sometimes you don't even know how you take on the things from other people unless you know yourself. The only reason I can relate that is because it didn't make sense for me at such a young age to ever get varicose veins. But it was something that stood out with my grandmother. And my grandmother used to walk the mall. This woman was active. She got up at dark 30 with my great aunt and both my great aunts, and they would go walk the mall. That's one of the things I loved about her. She was active. She didn't sit around and do nothing. And she taught me about finance, about making sure that you always had the money to pay off your bills. And my grandmother would be sitting down writing a check after she was already using a credit card back in those days. She'd already be paying off the bill that she just went out and spent money on. It's fascinating how we learn behavior through who we witness and spend the most time with. And why it's so important, especially as you get older, because before, when you were younger, you didn't have as much of a choice. Whereas now you're an adult, and now you get to choose who's in your circle. And you need to choose exceptionally. And yes, discriminatively, with awareness of how they make you feel. Because if they don't make you feel right, feel good, uplift you, why? Why are you allowing that? And then that usually brings you into the stories. So when you sit down, you can do this. Write down all the people in your life and how they make you feel. And ask yourself, especially with the ones who don't make you feel so well, so good about yourself, put down the reasons, the different things they make you think about or compare yourself to, or do they make you feel ashamed? Are you afraid that they'll reject you? Sometimes we only hang out with people out of loyalty because, well, we've been hanging out with them for a long time. You know, I've known them since I was a child. That doesn't necessarily make it a healthy relationship because we learned loyalty, and not always to the best of people or things or situations. We're in this together. Just because you're together doesn't mean you're in it together. Some people got one foot in and one foot out. They may be checked out, is my point. And this is where we have to be very discerning in partnerships, friendships, because it's a reflection of what we have healed and what we haven't healed. So in relationship, we put it to the test. When you're by yourself, it's really easy, and I can attest to this, to kind of hide out. But every time you have an encounter with someone, it is doing its thing. It's giving you opportunity to check you, to check in, to reflect. Ooh, even online, by the way, too. But it's, of course, it's different online than it is in person. Because you can't fake the funk in person. Can't fake the, the facial expressions. Oh, yeah, oh, And I know I'm animated across the board. So, like, relationship is where we put it to the test. It's where we grow the most. Doing the work on your own, that's its own form of flagellation sometimes. But everybody learns differently, and we do it at different stages and in different ways. Like, yes, I've learned a lot in relationship, and I've learned a lot not in relationship, especially the relationship with myself, because that's the point. Whether we're alone or we're with another person, we can't experience ourselves by ourselves. We need others. So all those people who say, oh, I want to be a monk and I'm going to hide out. Yeah, well, that's because you don't want to do the work. That's a cop-out. Most people who say that, you did not incarnate to be a human on this planet to be antisocial. That's because you're just afraid of being hurt, rejected, abandoned, whatever your wound is. You've got to learn what your core wound is, and we all have one. Mine has been being dropped. It has been, people not showing up, and they overpromise, and either they underdeliver or they don't deliver at all. And that's been in intimate relationships and friendships. And boy, that sucks. And it's one that I repeatedly have experienced to the point where I'm like, no more. That energy, I discern and I pay attention. The words, if the audio and the video don't sync, you're out of here. It's just not worth the wasted energy to sit and wait for what is being demonstrated. I learned it from my mom because my mom would do it. She would hold out, but she also would do the same. And she would overpromise and underdeliver. And I know that her heart wanted more, wanted to give more, but she couldn't connect with the willingness and ability. The willingness is one thing, but what is your limitation in your ability to process and to follow through? Again, this goes back to, in order to succeed, you have to fail often. So the difference between someone who tries and tries and tries again is huge from someone who never tries. So the overpromise, the underdeliver, all of that, you know what? It takes a humble person, a lot of courage to say, you know what? I really want to be able to help you with this, but I'm unable to meet you there. I'm unable to fulfill that. whether it's a mental block or an actual inability to be able to do something. It's like somebody who wants to give you money, but they have none. You can't pour from an empty cup. And usually that's because these people don't understand that they themselves don't have boundaries. And to establish the ability or inability is establishing a healthy boundary. Being able to say, I cannot meet you there, I cannot follow through with this, I cannot do this for you, is establishing a healthy boundary, and it is transparency and authentic. And man, I'll respect that any day than somebody who beats around the bush and just keeps on dropping. And I don't have time for that. I would rather know with a distinct no than a waffling. If your words aren't clear, your intentions aren't there. Get what I'm saying? And we all truly, we want partnership. We all want to be loved. We want to be in this divine union. Haven't you heard that one? I want my soulmate. I want my perfect person. I want my human. We all do. That's human nature. We don't want to be alone. Nobody wants to be alone. Even the person who says, I just want to be alone. Even they want to be a little bit poked and provoked and prodded because it's boring. You'd be bored off your ass. Hi, Mish. Hi, Shakti. You'd be bored off your ass if you were just by yourself. I don't want to be around anyone. You know why? Because it's not helping you to grow. It's in the discomfort that we grow. It's not in our comfort zone. And if everything's so predictable, ugh, really, people, come on. Ugh. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the need for consistency, but also at the same level, we want inconsistency. We love surprises. That's a form of inconsistency. It's not predictable. Inconsistency equals also unpredictable. But we like the consistency because you need a balance. You need a little level of like, okay, are you safe? Are you secure? Can I trust you? That especially is important. And so it's interesting. Years ago, I had my first numerology reading in Kundalini Yoga. It's when I had my prescription mala made, and it was really interesting because the way that it came across, the way it was written up, was that my path was divine union. And I'm like, really? And the way it was interpreted was the divine union with myself, within myself. Now, to me, and there's more to it, it's not just that, but that interpretation to me is equally important for everybody. Because the union we seek with another to fill a void, to complete us, that's not really what we're looking for. If you are looking for someone to complete you, to fill a void, that's codependency. Let's just get that off the table. And if that's the case, don't go into relationship, because relationship is meant to stir the pot. You are meant to work with it, the other person, work through things. And in some cases, like I had a conversation earlier with my girlfriend, sometimes I said, you know, you've been through a lot with this new partner, and she feels so held. I said, it's interesting, isn't it beautiful that we never consider that in some relationships, we actually set up contract. We have an agreement that said, we're going to go through some sticky times, but we're going to do it together. Whereas some others are like, I'm going to test you the F out, and then you're going to kick me out. And then there's going to be the other ones where it's like, I'm going to love you so hard, you're not going to know how to deal with it. And you're going to run. And then one day you're going to realize how good you had it because you didn't understand what love truly was. Like, we can go through millions, billions, infinite scenarios. Nobody ever stops to remind themselves, or I'm not going to say nobody, that's too general. A lot of us tend to go into that victimhood mindset of, this happened to me and that person. I do it. We all got to vent. We all got to get it off our chest. Sometimes talking it out is cathartic. But then I was reminding myself today, putting it down on paper, putting it in a book, whew, that's a whole nother level cathartic. And I say that for myself regarding so much of the memories and the different things that I've been processing for my book is like, conversations I've had with people. It's so much easier for me to tell the story out loud, but to put it down on paper, that's concrete. And that's scary as F. I'm just going to say that. Because there's a lot of people's names. Some I remember and some I don't. Some will be actually revealed and some won't. I would say that if I had any intention to tell the story, that in hopes that those people would read it, and it would be an opportunity for them to check themselves and go, wow, was I really like that? Because that wasn't my intention. And wow, in themselves, maybe finding compassion, not just for the situation and how I was affected, but also how they themselves see the hurt that caused them to be the way they were toward me. And that's general, because there's a lot of cases and a lot of situations that I've been in the course of my life that, especially during my military time, where I had, and it still befuddles me, is a word. When I think about the people that just had so much abuse of power, so much need to control, to put their thumb on me, to like literally prove themselves powerful by controlling me in a work environment, which was that huge abuses of power during my career, that I'm like, really? Like, that's some serious trauma, and that's some toxic interplay. Yeah. And you know what? I go back and forth. There's so much I've written down and so much I have in my head, and how to start out. And often I'm like, it will happen. And then I know that it's scary to reveal so much of what I experienced. And like, I mean, there's so many times I've told just small snippets and people are like, what? Really? Are you writing this? Like, I've gotten that response so many times. Like, it just blows people's minds, some of the stories that I've told. And I'm like, yeah, I did experience that. And having been in the military too, you know, that's always the big one. Like, really? That happened? I'm like, that's why I'm over here saying you have no clue. The things that you assume about, you know, these powerful organizations, they're the most toxic, unhealthy. Like today I was making a comment about, you know, fiscal spending, great example. Government, military, got to spend all that money by the end of the end of September, because, you know, if we don't spend it all, we're not going to get the budget for next year. And so therefore, that's the only way they can get increases every year. And yet at the same time, you wonder why the hammer cost $1,000, that the toilet seat costs $300. Like, where the heck they come up with these prices? Or like recently, what was it, over $3 billion was over. I just read this today too, that the Pentagon overvalued a bunch of the equipment that was sent over to Ukraine. $3 billion overvalued. And I'm over here going, sound familiar, people? Do you remember the money that went missing, that everybody forgot about because the two towers fell down back in 2001? I will never forget walking past the briefing room at the exact point Donald Rumsfeld came walking out, and I had a moment of eye to eye, like, Why did that stand out in my mind? He was supposed to be testifying about missing money and a misappropriation. Everybody forgets about these little details, by the way. I'm over the irresponsible fiscal spending, but that's just me witnessing the stupidest. Like, you wouldn't give these people your money to invest in. Why are we allowing that? Anyway, that's a whole nother ball of worm, can of worms stuff. Anyway, but that was what stood out to me today. I was like, here we go again. Sounds familiar. Let's go back to relationships, though. Because the most toxic one we're all in is with our government. Talk about codependency. Drop that one like a hot potato, because that's just going to burn you up. Give it no mind, literally. What do you really want? What do you really want in this life? We have a new moon tomorrow. It's a great opportunity to literally make magic. Cast your spell wisely. What is it you literally want to put out to the universe that it boomerangs back to you? Because life is about you creating your reality, you being the star of your own show, as we like to say. And you always get a choice. It's your superpower. Stop wasting the choices on the obligations and expectations. Because those obligations and expectations are really just a story you created in your head that you think you need to keep on being loyal to. How's that one? That in your head you have a set of beliefs. It's your BS, your belief systems, that you are more loyal to than you actually confront and question, why am I still doing this? Why am I still loyal to that thought? And that's something to sit with. With a new moon, you get a clean slate, right? Especially since we've had this eclipse portal, all of these planets in retrograde, all of this Pluto stirring the pot, like the underworld coming up from behind. Everybody's feeling it. I ran into another girlfriend today, and she's going through something major traumatic, and I'm just listening to her, and it really boils down to each and every one of us is being faced with our own mortality, our own what if. What is your what if? What is your what if? What is your priority? What do you want to feel? What do you want to experience? What do you want to embody in this life? You came here with purpose. You are the reason. There's no need to play small. There's no need to hold back. Even if you're looking out at the world comparing to what you're seeing, because, it's all trick of the eye, all the world's stage. Keep you in distraction and fear, worried about this or that. That's the trap. Distraction is how they pull you down to the lower vibration. Choosing this or that is the trap of duality. And it feeds the energy of whatever this or that is. It doesn't feed you. Power comes from within, and the only power you have is in this moment. So if we are thinking about something from the past, or we are projecting that past onto the future, we're not fully present. That's how we get hijacked. That's the real 𝐕𝐞𝐿, the mind virus. And during this period of time, you get an opportunity to reinvent yourself, to rebirth, to literally reassess yourself and your situation and where you're at, and if that's really what you want. Because there comes a time when you start to go, where am I and how the hell did I get here? I've had that happen to me several times over this past year, and I'm like, whoo, wow. And the dating pool is much smaller for the standards that I hold and keep. So I'm just over here going, I'm okay with being alone right now. I'm okay with that. I'm fine because I got a lot on my plate. I'm really good at doing that, by the way. I can make my own distractions, especially when you're renovating a house. That's a whole... I have to rent a compactor now. This is the fun part. My life just keeps getting more interesting. But let's go back to the fact of the matter. We all want to be in a relationship. We want a partner. We want the perfect partner that matches us, that is at our level. And honestly, I know for myself, I want somebody who's already like, he has to be at my level to understand me. And then I prefer that he's even higher because I want to learn from him too. I want a partner where we interplay in a way that we're learning every day, that we encourage, enhance, we complement each other, not compliment. Because that's real relationship. Real relationship starts with you though, because you're not going to track that perfect mate until you have harnessed and balanced your inner feminine and your masculine. We're all two halves of the whole. We're both. And the true divine union is that within you. You're not going to fix it from the outside. You're not going to fill any voids from someone outside of you. They're not going to complete you if you're not already complete. They will complement you, compl, C-O-M-P-L-E-T. Yeah, E-M, yeah, I'm tongue-tied over here. Complement, C-O-M-P-L-E-M-E-N-T versus the I in the middle. We're not here to put, oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, that's a compliment. No, it's the enhancement. When we say compliment, we mean enhancing our lives. We add value to one another. But the only way you can do that is if you yourself balance that masculine and feminine, you see the value in you. And that's huge. Because we have a lot of broken down, worn out, torn up humans walking on the earth right now that don't see their value, that don't realize their imbalances. They're walking wobbly, right? And we'll walk wobbly until we get it right. Practice makes progress. This is not about perfection, because we'll have on days and we'll have off days. And the masculine and the feminine, sometimes your masculine steps up, but you need to counterbalance it with the feminine within you. You can husband yourself and still soften within. You can allow the masculine to show up to you, and you can become the feminine and enhance another. And this doesn't even have to be in an intimate relationship. This is in your everyday life. The softening, the slowing down, the taking stock and looking around. The feminine is very flowy, very unpredictable sometimes, can burn shit down too. But the masculine is that safe container, the sacredness, the space. He wants to protect us, that masculine within us and outside of us. And he needs to feel that you are desiring that and wanting that from him if you're in partnership. So within yourself, though, you have to acknowledge, where in my own self am I not supporting me, showing up for me the way I want others to show up to me? So when I have shared in previous videos about how know thyself so well that nothing will catch you off guard outside of you, meaning you spot it, you got it. You're going to see the shit in others because you own it in yourself, and that can't take you out. Now, where we're regarding in relationship, everything shows up to you where you're at. So even if you're having an off day and someone shows up to you and they're kind of a shitty way, they're exposing your shitty stuff underneath the surface that you may not even realize is there. it's really beautiful. And when you start to see the poetry in motion, the arts, the artistic way of life, that everything is a divine dance of energies. And it's like, oh, it's so much easier to see when you're flirting. It's so much more fun and apparent. Like, have you ever had those days where just like, you flirt with this one and then you walk around the corner and just smiling, oh, she's like, oh, that was fun. And you run into someone else and you're like just oozing all this flirt. And they start playing with you. Like, you know, it becomes the domino effect. And once you're in that energy, it builds momentum. And that's what they call getting in the state. So any energy, any feeling, sensation that you want to feel, all you got to do is practice it at first, at home, embodiment, dance. You know, standing in front of the mirror, you're going to go into a meeting. You do these stoic, you know, the power poses with the hands on the hips, and you're standing there and you just, I am powerful. Like, those are the ways to get in the state. But when you notice you have those moments and you catch, oh, I attracted that bad, or, you know, like altercation, confrontation, when you catch that, take a pause and take a breath and go, how did I attract that? Maybe there's something I need to confront to myself. And also give yourself an opportunity to reset it. Because in the moment, you can still capture it. You can still course correct it, recalibrate it. And sometimes it's as simple as, and when you breathe in front of another person too, a lot of times when they see you relax and get that full body breath, you watch their physiology, you watch their body, you'll notice they will sometimes even breathe in with you if you do it more than once, in sync, and you'll be like, you know what? Let's try that again. Whatever the situation, you can always start over, even in the moment. The course correction, when you do it with somebody familiar or unfamiliar, you can actually be setting another domino effect to where that person remembers that encounter, where there was an opportunity for both of you to start over with no judgment. And like it's literally like a Jedi mind trick. It's like magic that when you do it in the moment and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that was really interesting. Wow, I like what you did there. Sometimes it's spoken and sometimes it's not. I've witnessed it and I've been a part of it, and it's beautiful. It's humbling too, because sometimes you actually have to apologize in a very graceful manner that maybe in the past, your mind, if your mind was like me, would be like, fuck no, I'm not saying I'm sorry. It's not my fault. We do this, you know, sometimes we can be ornery, but you got to call out your own orneriness. I can be as ornery as they get. I've gotten so much better, let me tell you. I would say that I could be the person that when I would get angry at somebody, I can't look you in the eye if I don't respect you. That's one of my telltales. If I can't look you in the eye, you've done something that made me distrust you. Inconsistency in languaging and audio and sync, you know, video being out of sync. Your words aren't matching with your actions. The others are, I won't speak to you. And holding a grudge, it was, hurts my heart to think about how many grudges I've held, but I no longer do. Now I'm just like, it's all, not my monkey, not my three-ring circus. I don't want to carry that. I don't want to feel the ickiness of anger or angst or resentment. I mean, I'm still working through the Italy thing, let me tell you. That one's still kind of rocked me. And there are moments where I'm like, really? That's life. And we get through it when we get through it. Not when someone tells us, you should get over that. That's what that'll make me ornery. Don't be getting all passive aggressive with me. I don't need that shit, right? Yeah. True divinity is the unity of your masculine and your feminine within you. That's divine union. And that's tonight's message, that everything you think you're seeking outside of yourself is really what you're seeking within you. I mean, you hear it all the time, but can you truly be okay with sitting with your own divine? That's in you. You're not going to find that in a guru. If you think you see it in someone else, it's only because they're mirroring back to you. Whatever it is you admire and despise in another is in you too. That is the divine masculine and feminine. Whether it's healthy or unhealthy is up to you in recognizing and recalibrating and rebalancing it. Because when we fully embody our healthy divine masculine, divine feminine, we are unstoppable. People see the resilience in you. They see the glow. They feel your grace. They also feel your like stoic is always a good word, but with the feminine, there's a softness, but you can still be very balanced and you're not unapproachable, because you're completely approachable. In fact, people are drawn to you. And when they see you, they're like, I know there's something there. Whether they speak it or not, you can tell by the look in their eye. And the presence, that's what it is. The word is presence. That divine masculine and feminine, when it's in full balance, there's a presence that is palpable. And we all aspire to that. Because when you are in that space, you will attract the partner that's meant for you. Not to compliment, not, oh, how you're so pretty, but to compliment you, to enhance you, and you them. Because that's what we are magnetized toward. That which we feel will enhance, and literally you should be feeling it through the 5 senses. You should be like, wow, that was a whoosh. Literally like lightning striking. We all have that within us. It's about reclaiming it and rising in it. Reclaiming and rising in our divine self. How yummy does that sound? I mean, why wouldn't you want that? And why wouldn't you want to work on that? I can tell you some reasons that people do. They avoid it. I don't feel worthy. It wasn't demonstrated, so I don't know what it looks like, and I don't know what it feels like. So in order to do it, to be it, you actually have to practice it, which means knowing what it feels like. To also be okay with being alone with yourself. Like that in itself is the hardest one for most people. A lot of you, I say this for myself too. I've been in those spaces where you just don't want to be alone. You're like, I wish I had a partner. Why? You feel alone? You're lonely? It's nice to cuddle with somebody, don't get me wrong. But when it boils down to it, would you rather be with somebody who's a warm body for just the moment? You know, oh, well, you know, you're just the one for now. Or the right one. We want the right one. That checks off more than just the in the moment box. Or in the meantime, as Iyanla Vanzant's book is titled. That's a great book, by the way. Great book read. I suggest for anybody who is still struggling with the whole relationship thing and codependency. In the meantime is recognizing sometimes we're in a relationship that's just in the meantime until the right one comes along. Not condoning codependency, not condoning the idea that you need to just be with somebody just to be with somebody. We usually do that when we're younger. You know, we're trying things out, testing the waters, seeing what works, what doesn't. We're contrast, compare. That's how we learn, is through contrast and compare. And so it's discerning what is real and what we feel, because that's really what reveals what is right for us. Tuning in, tapping into the 5 senses and our being, Our body is our truth indicator. It's so easy to tell whether you want to be with that person or not. But the question is, can you be with yourself first and okay when you don't have someone else in your life? Relationship always comes up, especially around the summertime. Everybody wants to, jet away somewhere. Summertime travels and with my partner. Yeah, I'm ready to travel. We'll be doing a retreat in October. So Italy, diving in for sure. Happy new moon in Taurus. What do you value? Materialistically, energetically, emotionally, mentally, physically? Don't be afraid to say you like beautiful things either. I love beautiful things. Life is art. And to say you don't want to have anything material. Don't cut your nose off to spite your face. You don't have anything to prove to anybody. This is something that I have found over the years, especially in these different communities that I have delved into and, swam in waters of different environments. Because you really need to be in these different humans in unity, humanity spaces to really learn about yourself. So although we can call out a community or a group, in reality, it's just some individuals that are there that make it look and appear a certain way. So generalizing is never a good thing, by the way. And I'm only saying this for myself because I have said things like spiritual community, there's a lot of people hiding out. Yes, there are. Just like every walk of life, you're going to encounter all the different personalities everywhere you go, because this is life and it's a cult of personalities. And even you get to choose what your cult will be in the personality that you choose to be. How freaking clever is that one? So you get to choose the cult you're going to be in based on the personality you choose to be. Waking up to that is just, that in itself is true humility. Like, I have a personality. I'm attached to this role and identity. Oof. That can be some heavy stuff too, by the way. Especially if you have all this, expectations and trying to fit in, and it doesn't feel authentic. It feels heavy when it's not in alignment with your inner self. If you're not following your heart and soul, it will call you out. Your body will be the first thing to call it out. And it's usually in the form of discomfort, dis-ease. Keep doing it. The body always keeps score. The body's always telling on the mind. The mind, when not aligned, turns into discomfort, dis-ease. Life is meant to be enjoyed. And when we get caught up in these stories, these belief systems, these rules around how life is supposed to be. Oh, you're not supposed to want anything. You're not supposed to want money. You're not supposed to be this. You're not supposed to be doing that. So contradictory, by the way. Of course, I love beautiful things. Don't you like art? I like art. I love fashion. I love design. You know what I got today that just made my heart so happy? And you know why? Because I miss my sunflower picture, and I walked into the store today and I found the most beautiful sunflowers. Let me I'm going to just turn this because you'll see it. How gorgeous is that sunflower? So I treated myself to sunflowers because I am the sunflower. And I love the happiest flower. Do that. Treat yourself. And stop making excuses and stop denying yourself what you know you desire. When we deny ourselves our own desires, it's only us we can blame. And it's, again, based on our BS, our stories. Like, thank you, Pamela. I love it. It's like we deny ourselves because of the conditioning and the program that has been installed into us. If this, then that. How freaking crazy is that? That we have, again, we need to upgrade our software. Okay, upgrade our operating system ultimately. It's time to level up. No more of this old paradigm with all these conditions. You get to write your own program now. So start thinking about tomorrow when you set your intentions for the new moon. How are you going to beautify your life? How are you going to leave your mark? How can you bring more love to the world? By being authentically you, of course. So go, shine bright. Get yourself some flowers. Do whatever it is that makes you feel delight. Literally, divine delight. Delight of light. Do something that makes you feel good. And start writing lists around the people that you encounter every day and how they make you feel. Reevaluate the relationships in your life and align them to yourself, to your light, to your life that you desire, because we are the sum of the 5 people we hang out with the most. And if we're hanging out with a bunch of people always complaining, pay attention, you might be one of those people. I know for myself how easily I used to be influenced by the people around me, and I am still. But these days I feel a lot stronger in who I am. And there are my moments. I have my moments. But I even get sick of hearing my own complaints. So there's a point where I check myself too. And also notice the people who come back to you time and time again for you to just listen and them unload on you. Start establishing boundaries with those people, especially when you're hearing the same stories and you're just being used to enable those stories. Are you truly serving that person while they suck the life out of you and you're not able, or you're not saying in return, could you please not bring that energy to me next time? I've heard it enough. It's not my story. Like, that takes some serious cojones, courage to boundary up, kind of like button up, you're boundarying up. And I really don't like the word boundary. I prefer standards, because if you set a standard, you maintain it. Whereas the boundaries, yeah, sometimes you got to let up on some things and buckle down on others. Boundaries to me always make me think of like caging yourself in. But if you establish a strong foundation with set standards, you shouldn't need to boundary up. But I think in these times, people are poking and provoking, so you actually just gotta go. Not today, Satan. Fuck off. Yes, standards are foundational to me. They feel more solid. So I appreciate all of you for tuning in tonight. This was a random. I love you all. I can't wait to be able to meet some of you in Zooms. I will be putting I'm just going to say the Women in Wellness online retreat for the time, because that was the original one that I put together last time. And it's getting tweaked, but the other one is going to be Let's Retreat, and that's going to be when we go to Italy. So I can't wait to meet you all. From my heart to yours, so much love, and really seize the magic and the opportunity of this new moon. And every time, you always get a chance to reinvent, to recreate, to rewrite whatever story you want to experience of your life. We're always getting that every single day. But be intentional with it. Like, really be devoted, determined, and disciplined. And I say that for myself just as much. Mwah, 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 mwah. Love you.